Hi, everybody. It's Dispeller. I hope you're all having a wonderful day, and I am here to read our next chapter, which is chapter 14, The Grenade. This ought to be an interesting chapter because look at the picture. I showed this last night, but I'll show it again. It's a man in an office, apparently. This is all about offices and doctors and everything, this book. And he is literally having a meltdown explosion. Everybody is running for cover, trying to leave the room, trying to get out of, the line of fire, so to speak, of the grenade. So this will prove to be an interesting chapter, I'm sure. As always, if you have comments, questions, just want to chit-chat with your friends, please feel free to do that in the side chat. I will be watching and paying attention if you address me or if you say anything I need to respond to. I'm always trying to be very careful to notice the comments. So I'm going to begin reading, and you can comment if you will, and we will go from there. And after I'm done reading, of course, we will have a time of discussion to chit-chat or talk about the book or anything that you wish. I just got home about an hour or two ago. I spent a little time with my daughter, Carol, and she had to go get her COVID test for her job, so I sat in the vehicle and waited for her to do that. And she gave me a bunch of food to take home with me. So I just got finished eating a small taco salad. It was pretty good and kind of filling. And I actually ate beef, y'all, that are all worried about me not getting protein. Yes, I ate actual cow. I did. Usually it's ground turkey, but she had beef, so I ate it. I prayed over it, and I'm sure it will be fine. Okay. Mark and Margie had been happily married for 6 years. The problem was that they had been married for the last 15 years. And since the first 6 were the happy years, it seemed like they were doomed to suffer if they stayed together. Yet somewhere inside, each knew that it could be what it was meant to be. So doggedly, they stayed together, hoping and praying for a miracle. Thank you for the thumbs. Theirs was a common pattern. She blew up and he withdrew. The more she blew up, the more he withdrew. The more he withdrew, the more she blew up. Each felt victimized by the other's behavior. Mark came home from work tired. All he wanted was a little peace and quiet, a chance to put his feet up, kick back, and let go. But as soon as he walked in the door, Margie hit him with a list of the day's trials and tribulations and demanded that he listen. Honey, relax. What good does it do for you to stress yourself out over these trivial concerns? You're making mountains out of molehills, said Mark innocently. Mountains out of molehills? Great, just great. Do you think I slave around here all day to have you come home and insult me? Nobody cares how I feel. I might as well kaboom. Margie exploded. Why does she have to act like that? Thought Mark to himself. What have I done to deserve this? When people's efforts to get appreciation are thwarted by the indifference of others, they may become grenades. When the intent is not met, and the behavior becomes inescapable and immediate demand for attention, blowing up or losing emotional control is a last resort defense strategy against the feeling of unimportance. If the behavior is tolerated through the years, it can become the first line of defense. So basically, what you get used to doing that is accepted in your marriage or your relationships, you will continue to do. As Dr. Phil says, if there's payback, you will keep on doing the behavior. Some people hold back their feeling of insignificance for 10 years before blowing up. For others, it is a daily event. Some blow up with strangers, while others save it for their loved ones. But everybody, sooner or later, has a temper tantrum. Almost anything can pull the pin on a grenade that's ready to go off. It can be a tone of voice, the look on someone's face, something said or unsaid, or some aspect of the situation itself. And if you wait too long to deal with it, it's too late. At that point, anything you say or do will only make the situation worse. Only seconds after the explosion begins, it turns into a chain reaction. If you, as an adult, have ever lost control of yourself in front of witnesses, we're certain you'll agree that it is humiliating to blow your top and be unable to stop. Grenades hate themselves for their behavior while they're doing it, after they've done it, and whenever they fear they may do it again. This never-ending cycle of self-hatred is the timing device that causes the explosion. Often, grenades will leave the scene of the explosion as soon as they realize what they've done, hoping time will heal the wounds and that the witnesses will forget that it ever happened. Unfortunately, no one ever forgets that it happened. That's why when the smoke clears, the dust settles, and the grenades return, typically the cycle immediately begins building up to a critical mass again. Obviously, this is a volatile cycle that can self-perpetuate until the adrenaline supply is thoroughly exhausted. This is a case where an ounce of prevention could be worth more than a pound of cure. It doesn't have to go this far or happen this often. You just have to get involved as soon as you hear the distant thunder. Here's our little chart here. I'll show you where the grenade fits on all of this. They're right into the attention-getting area up in here, or down in here, I should say, right there. They're all about the attention. Okay, you'd better adjust your attitude. The two most common reactions to grenades to explode are 1, to blow up at them for blowing up, or 2, to quietly withdraw and hate them from a safe distance. Both reactions are based on disgust and sometimes fear. Hating people who are hating themselves is like offering to pour a little more gas on their already raging fire, when what is needed is some cool thought and fluid action. Instead of saying to yourself, I don't need this and I don't deserve this, you can do yourself a favor by forgiving grenades their moments of temporary insanity. After all, what you fail to forgive, you live. To break the cycle, you must stop blaming them for what they blame themselves for doing. How does one forgive the almost unforgivable? You just keep breathing in, and with every breath out, release some of those painful reactions. If you're seeing red, let it change to a relaxing blue or green. Or you might try writing an angry letter, venting all your frustration and disappointment. Caution, do not mail this letter. Burn it when you're done writing. Then learn to look at the grenade in a different way. A woman in a seminar told us that when her boss throws a tantrum, she simply imagines him as a 2-year-old with a dirty diaper throwing a tantrum, which isn't that far from the truth, and treats him accordingly. Another seminar participant told us he creates a funny fantasy to take the edge off the grenade's behavior, like imagining himself plastering the grenade with a cream pie right in the middle of the explosion. Your goal, take control of the situation. In essence, your goal is to take control of the situation when grenades start to lose it. I almost said granola. I must be hungry still. Though it is impossible for you to stop grenades from exploding once the pin is pulled, grenades can stop themselves given the right circumstances. You can create those circumstances. By the way, if you do happen to imagine the grenade as a baby in a diaper or anything like that, and it makes you laugh, you might want to be careful, because if you start laughing in the middle of your boss's tirade, that might not go well for you. Just saying. I was just picturing that, like they say when you're doing like a speech, to picture people in their underwear. I used to actually do that when I had to give oral reports in school, but then I would start giggling hysterically when it wasn't really funny what I was saying. Could be talking about something very controversial, and I'd be picturing all these people in their underwear and just dying laughing. It was just like very inappropriate timing on that. So be careful when you use these techniques as well. Okay. So get their attention. To get people's attention when they're losing control of themselves, call their name, raise the volume of your voice so you can be heard through the explosion, and wave your hands slowly back and forth in front of you, kind of like you're signaling a bus, I guess, like I do in the morning. This also works exactly the same way on the phone. If you don't know their name, call them by their gender, sir or ma'am, or whatever you call them. Raise the volume of your voice until it's loud enough to be heard. You don't want to be misunderstood as being aggressive, so make sure your tone and language are friendly. As you do, wave your arms back and forth to attract their attention. Step 2, aim for the heart. Show your genuine concern for these problem people by saying what they need to hear. By listening closely, you can determine the cause of the explosion, then backtrack while reassuring them of your concern. The first few frustrated statements leading up to it usually have something to do with the present circumstances. Then quickly diverge into massive generalizations or areas that have nothing to do with the present circumstances. Take Joe, for example. Nobody cares how long I worked on this. Nobody cares how I feel. That's the problem with the world today. Neglect. The government, they're just all doing the same thing. The environment is ruined. The crime. Just take my father, or just like my father, you would respond to this by saying, Joe, we care. We care how long you worked on this. It isn't necessary to discuss world problems, government, the environment, or Joe's father. Speaking to the first few ravings will be enough. You do have another choice. You can use generic grenade interruption statements. You can say, I don't want you to feel that way. Nobody should have to feel that way. There's a misunderstanding here. Joe, you don't have to feel this way. Oh, I like that one better. It's almost like you're coming in the middle of a storm and you're like, you don't have to be out here. Come on in the house. I like that. That's kind of showing some compassion there. That sounds very sweet. It almost makes me want to cry when I picture somebody saying that to somebody that's really, really upset. This can work because the grenade doesn't like feeling that way any more than you do. Joe, we care. We care how long you worked on this, Joe. You don't have to feel this way. There's a misunderstanding here. In a personal relationship, you have another option. You aim at the internal self-hatred by saying, I love you. I care about you. And it's good to get that all out of your system. Let it out. There's obviously something troubling you here, and we will deal with it. The words admittedly are simple to say. Backing them up is the hard part. Probably the last thing you want to tell a grenade is, it's good to get all that out of your system. But the grenade is usually so far gone that even empty words are better than no words at all. And when you hit the heart, you'll be surprised how quickly the grenade calms down. By the way, if you're enjoying this series and you'd like to see the rest of them, I will try to post somewhere on the screen at some point. One of these corners will have another reference to some of the other chapters, at least the playlist where you can find them. If you're enjoying this, also hit the like button, which is a thumb up, and give me a little bit of a like, and share the information with your friends, whoever you think might need it. And I also have other videos of all different genres and topics, everything from cats, guinea pigs, house cleaning, etc. Check out the whole channel and be free. And please leave me a comment down below. I would love that if you do that. I love comments. I don't get nearly enough comments anymore. So it's helpful if you leave a comment for me to know where things are at. Are you enjoying the series? Is it a bit too technical for you? Do you have other types of self-help things you'd want to explore? Nothing too agey. I don't get into all the new agey stuff, but self-help is good. Psychological stuff is good, as long as it's not too deep and intense, because some people it's just over their heads. I realize some of this may be over your head too, so I try to interlude and explain as much as I can, but some of it's a little complicated for me too, to be honest. So I'm taking a little bit of it at a time and trying to figure out who I need to apply it with. So hopefully you'll be able to find it useful like that too. All right. And also, of course, hit the bell so you don't miss any future uploads that I do. Thanks. Okay. Reduce the intensity. This is number 3. If your aim is true, the grenade will register the heart hit by trying to shake off the anger or rapidly blinking his eyes. This is a good sign that you've hit the mark, as it means your problem person is running a systems check to see if anything was damaged before coming to his senses. When you see this kind of response, you can begin to reduce your voice volume and intensity. You can talk grenades down from their peak of explosion to a normal level of communication by reducing the intensity of your own communications. I'm really good, like I've told you before, I'm really good at de-escalating people. I was trained intensely in that through like 20 plus years of telemarketing, but other things too. I worked in a school for 2 years with kids that had behavioral disorders. These were gang member kids that would sooner jump you and harm you than talk to you. I had extreme favor on my job. I'm friends with a couple of those children still, who aren't really children anymore. They're young adults. But you learn very quickly that when you're in a crisis situation, to scream back at somebody is not going to be in your best interest. Aw, Bella, thank you. Thanks. I'm not sure what you mean by that, but I really appreciate it. I'm working on really putting my best foot forward this year. Last year was a disaster. So were the last few years. But I'm really trying to reclaim my channel in a more positive way. Oh, thank you, Bella. Thank you. Okay. Take time off for good behavior. There is absolutely no point in trying to have a reasonable discussion about the cause of the explosion while a grenade has adrenaline still coursing hotly through his or her bloodstream. So this is the time to take time out and to let things cool the rest of the way down. Whether it be 10 minutes, an hour, a day, or a week, time away is necessary to a meaningful follow-up on the episode of temper. Joe, let's take a break from this. Then we can get back together and work everything out. Step 5. Prevention. Find the pin and don't pull it. The 5th action step deals with the long-term relationship, and it is therefore the most important. Find the pin and don't pull it. If you can find out what pulls the pin on a grenade, you can act to prevent it from being pulled again. Finding the pin happens at different time and place from the explosion, when nothing is going on and you're both in the cooperation zone. You could simply come right out and ask what makes your grenade mad. This assumes that you have enough of a relationship with your grenade to ask. And don't call them a grenade. Don't say, hey, Dispeller was reading this book on YouTube and she said you're a grenade. So I want to know what makes you tick and where the pin is so I don't accidentally dislodge it in conversation. I don't suggest you do that. A good way to start is by stating your intent clearly. I want to reduce conflict with you. Then inquire as to what made the grenade so angry that last time. Use clarifying questions to get specifics. A useful question is, how did you know when to get angry? For example, if a grenade says, I got mad because nobody was listening, do not try to convince the grenade otherwise. You may know for a fact that people were listening, but based on what the grenade is saying, it's obvious that the signal that indicates people are listening was not received. Ask the grenade in a friendly tone, how would you know if people were listening? I like that. You know what I love the most about this book is it's getting me to see the other person's side, which me being a bit of a self-centered person at times, don't always think to do that. It's not that I don't want to. It's just not a first thing that I think of. Some of that could be the damage that the medicine did in my brain years ago when I took it for what they thought was bipolar, turned out to be cyclothymia. Oh, hi, Mommy Mars. Thank you. I think you gave me this necklace, Mommy Mars. Either you did or Hillary did at some point along the juncture. And I decided to wear it. It doesn't exactly match, but I think it's pretty. So I thought I'd throw it on. A kind of nice contrast color with black and white. Kind of cool. So yeah, this book is kind of getting me to look at the other person's side and realizing that just because somebody blows up, it doesn't make them a narcissist. It doesn't mean that they have disorders. It might just mean that they're feeling pressured and they're not feeling understood, or they're perceiving something as not going their way. So yeah, this is giving me a whole new slant on things. I hope it's giving everybody a new perception of people. All right. The response may be when people just don't just sit there. When they respond, that's how they know that they're listening. It's funny because when my pastor was preaching on Sunday, she might have. Yeah, she might have. I don't know. Or maybe I might have gotten it from somebody. I think my mom gave me some stuff in New York. Maybe I got it there. I don't honestly remember, but I really like it. My pastor, yeah. Hang on. Long day. Sorry, had to yawn. No, you're not blocked. No way. No, you're fine. I would have no reason to block you. You haven't done anything to get blocked. And I even play with trolls on my channel, so I won't block them very readily either. People get mad about that, but that's just me. Okay. So what I was saying was my pastor, he'll preach and he'll literally stop and say, are you here? Don't make me preach myself silly here. Like he really wants response. And I get it because I've actually preached in front of people and I feel the same way. If they're saying amen, yes, oh yeah, that makes sense. Then it makes me want to give more. But if they're just sitting there like bumps on a pickle with no response, it's really hard to preach. It's hard to get a message out there when nobody's responding, Okay, so, anywho. So you, of course, will want to inquire, what response would they give you when they are listening? Do not take anything for granted. Be specific. You can even get specific about what you can do to help the situation the next time it gets out of hand. Laura had a boss who blew up frequently. I don't. I love my boss. She's awesome. The most patient person I've ever met in my life for a boss. Other than my last boss in dairy, she was pretty patient too. But this lady's even more patient. Most of the time, it had nothing to do with her. For a year, she felt bad because she didn't know what to do to help him. Everything she said or did seemed to make the explosive episodes intensify. A day arrived when she just came right out and asked him, "How can I support you at those times when you lose your temper?" He casually said, "Just walk out and ignore me and do whatever you need to do." I smell a double bind here, but we'll see. She couldn't believe it. After a year of driving herself crazy trying to help him, the only help he wanted was to be left alone. Proof that it pays to communicate. So a lot of times you'll ask your boss that and they'll say, yeah, just ignore me. I just get ornery, whatever sometimes. Just walk out and go do your job. Ignore me, And then when you ignore them, especially if they're narcissistic, they'll turn around and say, "Don't walk out of here. What are you doing? Where do you think you're going? Get back here. I wasn't done talking to you." Double binds. So sometimes that might work like they said, but other times maybe not. You may discover that you aren't the pin puller. If the pin puller is someone else in the office, then one solution is training in team building, interpersonal communication, and conflict resolution, because everybody's got time for all that these days. Yeah. The pin puller may even be at home and the explosion happens at the office. In this case, helping the problem person to realize the difference and the consequences of failing to understand the difference may prove helpful. Whatever the cause of the explosion, if you're willing to invest a little time every day in actively listening to the problems the person faces, and if you actively support this individual in talking instead of blowing up, you will slowly but surely have a positive impact, reducing the frequency and intensity of the negative behavior. At the very least, you will be one of the few people around whom the grenade never loses it with again. Okay. Great moments in difficult people history. This is where we go into our little kind of mini history office, whatever, doctor lesson. So here's our little picture here. The two little guys sitting there having a chit chat in the office. We're about to find out, I guess, what they're chit chatting about, I guess. Who is behind me falling over here? Teddy is snuggled behind me. Crazy cat. Okay. I rant versus I rave in the Middle East partnership. That's what it says, Middle East. Chet and Dave were business partners in a Chicago creative enterprise. The lifeblood of their business was new ideas. Yet their work sessions resembled a war zone, with Chet being the grenade and Dave the tank. Once, in a moment of calm, Dave the tank asked Chet the grenade what bothered Chet the most about working with him. Chet replied that Dave seemed closed to new ideas. This really annoyed Dave the tank, who felt that he was incredibly open to new ideas. Oh, I hear you, Jenny. But I don't mind giving attention to them, because if they're the only ones in here talking, I'd rather talk to someone than no one. That's how I see it. Unless they're being nasty, then they will get blocked. But if they're just coming in and, shooting the breeze with me and picking at my brain or whatever, I don't mind that. They're still people. They're not like robots. Trolls are not robots. They're humans. All right. And I always know, when... Oh, you're saying to talk to them, I think. Okay. Well, you can explain that to me in a minute, Jenny. Or now, whatever. Okay, but to Dave's credit, he breathed through his urge to argue, and he asked, "How do you know that I'm closed to new ideas?" Chet the grenade explained that whenever he came up with a new idea, all Dave did was find fault with it. Chet the grenade felt that Dave the tank was failing to appreciate the value of the idea. Suddenly, a light bulb went on in Dave's head. He realized that Chet was in the get appreciation mode and that he, Dave, was working in the get it done mode. That makes sense. He drifted back through time, revisiting a few instances of conflict. In a blinding flash of the obvious, he realized that when Chet offered an idea, Dave rushed off into the future in his mind to see if it would work, and he came back with a report on how the idea seemed to be flawed. His intent was not to discredit the idea, but to make it happen by eliminating the obstacles. The more he liked an idea, the quicker he was to investigate the problems inherent with the idea. Being in the get-it-done mode, Dave had failed to give Chet some simple and deserved acknowledgement. Dave now saw that this was pulling Chet's pin. To someone in the get-it-done mode, nothing is more despicable than a grenade out of control. So Dave would try to control Chet with tank behavior, and that's how their work sessions quickly became a battle zone. Once Dave knew what the problem was, he found a way to solve it. Dave learned to purposely slow himself down whenever Chet offered an idea. He would say, "Thanks, Chet, that's a terrific idea." He learned to wait until his compliment registered before continuing. Let's figure out the next step to take to make it happen. Are there any obstacles we'll have to get past? He first blended with Chet's desire for appreciation, and then he clearly communicated his intent to make the idea happen by handling the obstacles. Using his get-it-done know-how, Dave came up with his plan, implemented it, and lo and behold, it worked. That one little change was all that it took to eliminate most of the conflict between them. Hey, I got to tell y'all something. Remember how I was saying the other day that where I work, there's not like a whole lot of acknowledgement. Like people aren't like, "Oh, wow, you bagged those or boxed those cookies perfectly," or whatever. I stand corrected. My boss the other day said that I had to ice, what were they called? Not Danishes. I do ice the Danishes too. Turnovers, and there's like these little bite-sized turnover type things too. I forget what we call them though, but they're little bite-sized things. And I take a sprinkle thing and I put the frosting on them and stuff, drizzle it on so that it like has those crisscrossy shapes on it. And she walked over and she said, "That is a perfect amount of drizzle. Good job." I loved it. That made me like the job even more because I got complimented because somebody acknowledged and appreciated my drizzle. I know that sounds funny, but it meant the world to me that she did that because very few times do any of the workers congratulate each other or, pat each other on the back or say, "Hey, that cake looks terrific. You're doing a great job." Never. Not since I've been there anyways. Everybody's just like in such a get it done mode that we don't even think about the get appreciated mode. Yeah, true, Jenny. True. Good point. Okay, so the power of positive projections. When Mark and Margie finally decided to seek therapy and hopefully preserve their marriage, they made an appointment with a relationship counselor. Margie began the session with this angry generalization. "He doesn't love me. When there are problems that need to be dealt with, I deal with them alone." Unfortunately, this thought would infuriate her, making her blow-ups even worse. Mark responded, "She's hysterical and out of control." It looked like the battle was about to erupt in the doctor's office, but the doctor was in. "Margie, Mark, hold everything. You both have legitimate concerns and deserve to be addressed, and I'm here to make sure that happens." That's true, Mommy Mars and Jenny, yes. The counselor pointed out that Mark and Margie needed to reframe the behavior that they each hated in the other. Margie was more sensitive to the problems in the relationship that couldn't be ignored. It is well known that if a couple puts off dealing with its problems too long, they become bigger than they really are. Oh, so true. My first 2 marriages, especially the first one, we would let things go and let things go. Well, he was a narcissist. He didn't like talking about things. He liked blaming me for things. He didn't want to discuss it. It was all my fault. The second marriage, he was learning disabled. He was very immature, very young in mentality. We could talk for hours about stuff, but trying to get him to understand responsibility, that kind of thing was a whole different ballgame. With Matthew, it's a brand new thing. We talk about everything. And if I don't feel like talking, he will almost come and get me and get in my face and say, "We need to talk about this." I hate it sometimes. I just want to be left alone, but I'll talk. And it'll make me give him eye contact, which is another thing I don't like. I don't do eye contact. I have a really hard time with it. I force myself to give people eye contact sometimes, but it's very uncomfortable for me. It always has been. I feel very intimidated by looking at people's eyes. especially in person, more so than on a computer, obviously. But I don't have to worry about that anymore because most people are avatars anymore. There's no eyes to look at. No, I hate that. Don't keep using your avatars. Become people again, please. Okay, anyhow, I do divert here. Okay. Eventually, such delayed problems have a tendency to become blown out of proportion. Without the explosion warning signals, Mark would never know what happened until he woke up one day and the relationship would be gone. Looked at in this way, Mark could see the advantage of Margie blowing up. The intent behind Mark's retreat into silence was to protect her from anything hurtful he might say. Mark had a deeply held belief that once hateful words have been spoken, you can never take them back because the damage is already done. A lot of people on here treat it like that too. Like, well, you wronged me and that's it. I'll never speak to you again. It's over and done with. I don't ever want to even hear your name or see the whites of your eyes or see your text or anything. You are a done deal. You failed me and I hate you and I don't want anything to do with you. Yeah, we all fall into that at times where we just want to totally make somebody disintegrate as if they never existed. But there are occasions when it's okay to try to work things out. More often than not, I would say. Okay, so he preferred to stay quiet when he was angry, using the quiet time to understand his feelings until he could communicate constructively. Looked at in this way, Margie could see the advantage of Mark's retreats into silence. He was trying to protect her from his blow-ups and his hurtful words. As Mark and Margie left the counselor's office, a lot had changed for them. The most significant change was in their understanding of each other's behavior. When Margie blew up, instead of deciding she's hysterical, Mark could choose to perceive this as an early warning signal, alerting him to issues they must deal with to keep their love alive. His new behavioral response was to lean toward her and say, "Honey, if you feel like this, then there must be something important going on that we need to deal with. I don't want you to feel this way. Let's talk." That is exactly what a grenade needs to hear, and it really helped Margie to calm herself. In the long run, his new behavior shattered her old belief that he didn't want to deal with their relationship, and that prevented further explosions. Oh, I really want to learn how to do this, y'all. I do. I'm not that person that's like, well, screw you, everybody. I don't care what you think. I'm going to have my channel. It's my channel, and you deal with it. I'm not that person anymore. A lot has happened in my life. A lot of good things have happened in my life. I'm turning the heat up for the guinea pigs. Allow me a moment here. And I don't feel that way anymore. I don't feel like I don't care what people think or how what I say matters to them or if it does or if it hurts them. I care very much. So if there's something I say or do and it offends you or we need to talk about it, please do come to me. I'm not going to bite your head off. I promise. Cross my heart. Okay. Let's see. I got to find my place. Sorry, I lost my place here. In those times when Mark did withdraw, Margie stopped thinking the infuriating thought, he doesn't love me. Instead, she could tell herself, he does love me. He doesn't want to hurt me with angry words, and he probably needs time to think this through. That kind of thinking helped her to remain calm, and she would say, why don't you take some time to consider this, and we'll talk about it tonight. As she developed confidence that the issue wouldn't be put off forever, she experienced greater satisfaction and calm. Her calm communication pulled him out of his withdrawal, and the discussions became easier, faster, and more fruitful. So Mark and Margie learned to live happily ever after. Well, most of the time anyway. Here's a quick summary. When someone becomes a grenade, your goal is to take control of the situation. Your action plan is as follows. 1, get the person's attention. So I'd say, Matthew, honey, Matthew, darling, Matthew, aim for the heart. It seems like you're having a hard time right now. Number 3, reduce the intensity. Honey, whatever you're going through, we need to talk about it. Whenever you're ready, there's no hurry. I'm here for you if you need me, type of thing. Number 4, take time off for good behavior. I can see you're just really angry right now. I'm going to give you some space, like 5 minutes or whatever, and I'll come back when you feel better. And number 5, prevention. Find the pin and don't pull it. That's easy. I know how to set my husband off. There's no, it's a no-brainer knowing where the pin is with him. After almost 8 years of marriage, I know what things upset him. And I do my best now not to hit those triggers or pin, if you will, to get him, riled up and upset. So, yeah. Anyway, that is it, y'all. That was chapter 14, the grenade. The next thing we will read, maybe tomorrow or so, will be the yes person. Right here, we got a little picture here of people. The yes person is the person that says, oh, yes, no problem, I'll do that. Oh, yes, yes, yes. And then they resent the fact that they're having to do all that stuff. Yeah, this lady has all the papers piled up on her desk. Sure, no problem, I'll do that for you. Yep, right away, Mr. Smith. No problem, boss. Okay, Carol, sure, And then it just gets to be too much. And they get resentful and they get angry and they feel overwhelmed and they regret it. So the yes person will be probably tomorrow after work. I do work again tomorrow. So when I get home, we certainly can delve into the next one if I have time or sometime. It seems to be an everyday thing. It's been working out that way. I'm also trying to work out every day except Wednesday and Saturday because I want to try to get back into shape. So I did a 24-minute Tabata today. Oh my gosh, that was exhausting, y'all. Absolutely exhausting. But if it works to get me shaped up again, I will be very happy, especially before the summer hits. I'm not all about fitting into a bikini or anything like that, although it would be nice. I always wanted to wear a polka dot bikini, and they do sell them for bigger ladies too. So who knows? I might sport one at some point, but I want to take some pounds off first. Anyway, does anybody have any input, takeaways, anything you want to chat about? I am done reading. So I'll open up the floor. If anybody has anything to say or anything you want to talk about, any ideas for the channel, anything happening in your life, anything at all. Nothing, huh? Okay. Well, in that case, I'm going to thank Jenny and Bella Grace and Memphis Mommy Mars for coming in, and all of the other observers that were here, and anybody that will watch this later on for watching. Thank you for being supportive, for taking the time to learn about the grenade, for your kind comments and your comments elsewhere in my community page, etc. I'm always open to hearing your thoughts and your opinions, as long as they're respectful. I appreciate that. And I hope you guys have a wonderful evening. I'll see you soon. Be blessed and shalom.